Hey Tina, thank you so much for joining me on the My WHIM Life show. I am super excited to chat with you. I don't know at what point we actually met, but I know we chatted a couple of times. One time we went to Albertsons Marketplace and had poke bowls, and then and we've had coffee a couple of times. So I don't know you super well, but I definitely have been intrigued by you, and I stalk you on Facebook. You know, that's what we do these days, especially not being able to see each other in person a whole lot. Right. So, but tell me a little bit more about who you are.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. I'm super excited. I'm honored, so I appreciate it. Let's see, a little bit about who I am. So I am a mom of two, a soon-to-be 21-year-old and a 15-year-old, and a wife of many years. Don't ask me exactly how many. I have to do math right now, but many years. And then I'm also a business owner. My very own small business. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but yes. And let's see what else about me. I also run a women's networking group, and so yeah, I just really love being around women business owners, and it's kind of been like a little passion of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you have, your oldest is a girl, right?
Yes.
And then your youngest is a boy.
Yes.
So you've got one of each. You get to experience all the crazy that both sides of that present as a mom.
Absolutely. And it's like whatever you hear out there, it doesn't always apply, right? Because
absolutely.
My daughter, she's just she was never like a crazy dramatic teenage girl. In fact, I think actually maybe it's a little bit harder as she's getting to be an adult rather than when she was a teenager. But my son, he's just kind of always been the one that keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. We always have to have one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the second one. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Our last one was definitely the one that has kept us most on our toes. So I absolutely get that.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. So I know that part of how we met was definitely through your women's networking groups, which is Polka Dot Powerhouse. Mm-hmm. So tell me about how you decided to start that. What made you take that on as a challenge? Because that's a big deal, and I know there's a lot of women that are involved and inspired in this community.
Yeah, it was, yes, a big thing to take on. I would say that is one of the moments I certainly was stepping outside of my comfort zone, big time. At the time, I wasn't looking to start a group. Mm-hmm. I was looking to join a group, and it just so happened that the more I learned about this one, I thought, gosh, we really need this one in our community. So, you know, little bird in my ear a couple of times saying, oh, well, you should see what it takes, to start one. I finally thought, okay, you know what? They always say, like, if you can't find it, create it or bring it, whatever that saying is. So I did. And it's just been amazing. So much more rewarding than I ever thought it would ever be. Mm-hmm. And just the amazing women that I've met that I'm sure wouldn't have met otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a phenomenal experience. Just, I hate using terms that get used a lot, but life-changing for sure.
Totally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know just from being around some of those women and talking to them, that they just rave about you. They're like, oh, Tina, I can't even say enough good things about her. I'm so glad Tina decided to start this because there wasn't anything, like it in this valley, and it's just blessed so many lives. So that's what I hear from the outside. Wow. So I hope that you get to hear some of that from the inside as well, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, definitely. I hear it. It's so hard. I'm learning how to take in like the compliments and and just I guess take in how vast this really has been and mm-hmm. But I do always have to say though, honestly, it's I know it can start with one person, but really it's been an amazing leadership team. It's been just so many amazing women involved that have really helped to make what it is. So,
Yep, we lean on each other. I don't think there's any other way to do this. Regardless of how it began, we always have to have others in order to be successful. There's no one man show out there that is doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. That's right.
Absolutely. And then tell me about your Save the Day assistant business.
Yeah, so exciting.
Yeah.
Gosh, so this is, still pretty new, yet I feel like I've been doing it forever in a way. I don't know. So just because it's within my, I guess, we'll call it my zone of genius. It's just within the skills that I feel like I was gifted with. So, I don't quite always feel like it's like work, but it is growing a business. So in that sense, in that perspective, it's been interesting, a lot of things to learn. Definitely stepping way outside of my comfort zone. I mean, I've been around a little bit, in the entrepreneurial, around women, own different businesses and things like that. But like really starting something from scratch, I just never thought I would ever do in my life. And I owe that a lot to just being around women who are doing things like that, doing amazing things, starting things of their own, and having that belief and having that support, I think is super helpful. But yeah, it's been wonderful. It's kind of like started as this big vision that I kind of had to like step back for a moment and be like, let's not put the cart before the horse. And but yeah, so I was a one woman show for a little while with this business, and then I grew it into an agency just towards the end of last year. And yeah, now we're just like, growing and growing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you talk about your zone of genius, what are some of those traits or qualities or skills that you feel like really pushed you in this direction?
So I have just, I guess, naturally been really good at being organized and detail oriented and very like list oriented. And, if I have something to do, I just kind of visualize what it looks like from start to finish and just get it done. I think, I don't know, a lot of those things, it's kind of hard because I'm like, I don't know, I just
do it.
I'm like,
I know.
I didn't practice. It's just kind of how I've been most of my life. But I just never really, I was in the corporate world for a while. So I of course used a lot of those skills from there. But not as much, I think, as obviously, as I do now. So yeah, it's just, it makes you feel like you're really able to use your gifts and talents to give back, to do something with it, instead of trying to force something that maybe it's not quite your thing,
Yeah.
It just feels right.
Yeah. So what kind of what kind of projects or work do you guys take on?
So we do things like social media management, we do newsletter creation, marketing material type of creation, we do project management, customer follow-up and retention and things like that. Gosh, the list so we have like this list, and then we say it's not really all inclusive because it just depends on every client's business, right? They require sometimes little one-off things, but it's just typically a lot of the things that you would think of that puts a business owner kind of outside of what their income producing activities are, or what their zone of genius might be, and so maybe puts them behind the computer where that's not really the best use of their time. So those are the kinds of projects and tasks that we take off their plate. So yeah, a lot. I mean, there's so much more to processes and procedures and things like that. So yeah, those types of things.
Absolutely. I've definitely been on both sides of that because I was almost bred into the, admin type side of work, and that's clearly what I did well in corporate America, so I totally get where that you're like, I don't know how I do it. I just do the things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but it comes in, super handy, especially because now I'm on the other side of owning a business and having, income generating activities that I have to get done, that even though I'm really good at some of those things, that's not the best use of my time. So being able to see that and being willing to go, okay, take a step back, if I wasn't using my time to do these things, how much more could I be doing to grow the business rather than work on the business? Yeah.
Exactly. And I commend you for that too, because I mean, I have, a range of clients, some clients where it's like, they just know this is not what I'm good at. I need someone else to take over. And those are a little, they're easier as far as they are not reluctant to hand those off. Right. But I commend you because someone who is good at that stuff and been doing that stuff for a while, it's like a little bit of, I mean, not even necessarily control, but it's just, that it's the trust that someone else is going to do it just as well as you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it didn't come easily. I have been in my business for 16 years and I have had my assistant for less than a year. So it
took a while.
It took a long time for me to go, okay, this is not, you obviously are fine, but if you would like to go any further, you're stuck. I just had been literally producing at the same level for 4 straight years in a row. And that's when I recognized, okay, there's gotta be something different that we can do here. So I'm like, okay, fine, I will let go. And now she's so amazing. My assistant, I just assume that she's going to do all the things right. So it's great. It's great. But it took a while to get there. 15 long years of doing everything myself. So but having a service like that is really nice, especially for those that are in that transition piece where we don't want to hire someone full time. It's really just project work. So getting someone, that you can trust to do the little things and ease those control freaks like myself into having an assistant.
Exactly.
How do you sell that to them though? Someone who is I have always done it by myself. How do you convince them that this will save them time?
Right. It's a really great question. And I do have to say that I don't do a lot of convincing or selling, because what I don't want to do is end up in a situation where they're not actually ready.
Sure.
And then it's kind of like we're working against each other, working together, right? But I think it's a lot of, sometimes it's more than one conversation, right? So maybe just not, right. They're kind of like the wheels are turning like, this sounds like this could be a good thing that would help me, but it may take a little more time as far as like how they could really see that happening. But it is, the ones that I speak to are much like you, or that's kind of what I want my message to say is that, if you're just kind of doing the same thing and not quite getting, growing, but you know that there's more that you could do, right? Someone else needs to help you.
Right.
Or you need to allow someone else to come in and something that sometimes that is like in your situation, someone more personal, like really right beside them, right? Yeah. Really helping. But then there's like the transition, like our agency, where it's just, okay, can you just take some of these things off of my plate? And then it almost even gives business owners too just that mind space to just kind of open up and realize like, okay, what more can this look like? But they need some stuff to just be taken off their plate in order to just get that space in their head to open up, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely. What do you think, or who in your life do you think gave you the confidence to go, you know what, I think I can totally do this? Like, who are some of those influences for you?
So I would have to say, so in starting this business, I don't know that I would say any one person in my polka dot world, but kind of just all of the ladies that, we mastermind together and we're just so involved in each other's businesses that I just realized, I really, I feel like I really can start my own business. I would say my sister is another huge one. So for sure, just watching, things that she's done with her business and, having that modeled for me. But yeah, I would say just my polka dot community in general and my sister are probably the two biggest influences of just making me feel like I can do this.
Yeah, you totally can.
Yeah.
Another question that I actually had talked about, in an off-camera conversation with some other ladies the other night, that made me go, oh, this would be a great question. Because I am an avid reader. I read 2 to 3 books a month. I just consume. I just love it. I don't always implement, and that's my growth opportunity. Let's just be honest.
I love that growth opportunity.
Right,
yes.
right. But I'm always intrigued by what books are influencing people. Is there a particular book that like really sparked your interest, that got you going?
Oh gosh, one in particular. Well, so of course, there's been a few different books. I think one of the first ones that I read that really just made me feel like, gosh, I feel like everybody, no matter, not even if you're in business, but just in general as a human being. Have you read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Yes.
Okay. The title I always feel like is a little misleading because you're
Absolutely.
like, I don't want to win friends. And I mean, I guess I, potentially would want to influence people. But but yeah, you read it and there's just some, I feel like it improved my relationship with my children, my husband even, things that I looked at differently because of that book. So I just feel like it's kind of a good foundation of one for business.
Kind of gives you an entire perspective shift on communication in general.
And relationship with people in general. Yeah. So that was a big one. And then also The Champion's Mind by Tony Dungy. Have you ever heard that?
I have not.
Okay, The Champion's Mind by Tony Dungy. And that's, I think, also just a big one as far as, gosh, it's been a little while since I read it, but it's kind of like, I would summarize it in saying it's going that extra step because he talks a lot about athletes, of course. It's easy to relate business and like sports, like the one out there practicing when no one else is practicing, or the one out growing their business when no one else is out there doing the things that people don't want to do. So it's a lot of that kind of stuff, but I think that was another really big one. And there's a leader, I'm going to forget the 5 something about leader. I'm gonna have to look that one up, but there was a leadership one that I read not too long ago. I can't believe I forgot the name of it, but it was also in fact I even thought like, gosh, even when I was in the corporate world, that would have been a good one for me to have read and help to use in even the corporate world experience. So yeah,
there's a lot more crossover between corporate and in entrepreneurship than people realize, for sure. For those of us who have seen both sides of that, we're like, oh, okay, well, it's not so different after all,
right?
But some people just, they either have all one experience or the other, so they never get that dual look into both of those sides of the business. And there's room for both, everybody's like, oh, entrepreneur. And gosh, if we didn't have some of those corporations, we wouldn't have a space to be entrepreneurs in. So
true. We need everyone doing all the different things, right? It's
absolutely. Absolutely. So one of the other questions that I love to ask, because it's, everybody's priorities in life are so different, but what are some of the non-negotiables for you, whether that's a habit or time with family or whatever? What are those things that are kind of your core center that you lean on, that you don't compromise on?
I would say faith, family, and coffee. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's totally allowed.
So obviously I love coffee.
Yes.
But no, non-negotiables for sure. Faith, I just feel like there's a lot of things I wouldn't even be at this point if it weren't for that in my life, of course. And then family, because especially as you get as an entrepreneur, it's not so much about like from this hour to this hour. And so you have to be very careful about not working your business 24 hours a day.
Totally.
Or maybe not even working it necessarily, but thinking about it, or even if it's like checking phone messages. So really being aware of being present when it comes to family time and, spouse time and even friend time, So, those are definitely non-negotiables. And, obviously business is important, but not the most important thing in life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I actually talk about, I have like 9 sections of life that I feel are really important. And so I'm constantly reviewing every single night. I take just a brief look. It doesn't take me but 2 minutes, but I'm always like, okay, was I intentional? And I think that's really the difference for me. Was I intentional with my time with family or with faith, or, whatever those categories, look like.
Right.
I think for everybody it's a little bit different, but there's, was I intentional with my food? Did I move my body today? Like all of those things, I think, I think balanced life is absolutely a thing if you understand that the balance you have may not be the same as balance that I have. So I think looking at all of those things and just going, okay, this is where I need to work on things, or this is where I am killing it.
Right. Exactly.
And sometimes that's business and sometimes that's family, and I'm okay with that back and forth, that sliding scale.
Yeah.
From time to time, for sure.
Definitely. I agree. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So my last question that I always love to ask, and I have my own view of what this is probably for you, but how do you give back?
So I mean, this is probably what you're going to say too, but I really feel like my women's group is like, where I give the most back, as far as my little like underlying motto has been empowered women, empower women, right?
Yeah.
And so really with this this women's group, it's just, I really would love to see everyone just owning their gifts and, just sharing them and not being afraid, or at least stepping outside of your comfort zone all the time, right? And that's what I'm doing. I mean, that's why I said yes to this podcast. That's why I say yes to things that are a little outside of my comfort zone all the time. It helps you keep growing, and and then you can kind of share that with others, or sometimes it's just them watching and then getting that courage themselves, right? Because that's what I've seen in other people, like just watching some people, and it's given me the courage. So
Absolutely. I love it. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and share a little bit about you with the rest of my people. I know that you have huge influence and you're a huge inspiration to so many women. I hear it all the time. So I really appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor, and it's been a pleasure and just fun. So
Yes,
thank you.
so fun.
Yes, I love it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the My WHIM Life show today. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of the goodness.